Hola, hello, tudubem, konnichiwa. ¿Cómo estás? What it do? We have finally come to the end of our Stephen A. Smith versus LeBron incident. This is part 10. We are pretty much ready to close this right on out. So I will be giving my final thoughts on the entire incident. But before we do that, we just got one last little snippet. Because we had to bring this thing full circle, and Stephen A. Smith just can't help himself. To provide a little bit of context, Bronny James had his best game in the NBA. We cannot say that he did not have his best game in the NBA. So we give him credit for having his personal best game in the NBA. But that wasn't good enough for Stephen A. Smith. Of course not. Even though Bronny's dad has been a jerk to him and basically tried to embarrass him in front of millions of people, he still, for some reason, believes he will be invited to the Clutch barbecue, the cookout. He won't be, but he believes he will be for some reason. So let's let him talk about how he's going to get his foot in the backyard of LeBron James's cookout.
I might have been wrong. Are you listening, LeBron James? Are you listening, James family? Are you listening, all of you people? Because here's my position. My position was all along, Bronny James needed to be in the G League. Put him in the G League, let him be in the G League his first year, and then after that, let him come on, because I've always believed that this kid has the potential, once I watched him, to be in the NBA. But what I saw last night made me say to myself, wait a minute. He keeps showing up and playing like that. J.J. Redick and his staff obviously doing an exceptional job coaching him. The G Leaguers obviously doing a good job of preparing him. Him sitting on the bench, learning, watching the Lakers players, being in practice with them sometimes. Evidently, that seems to be working for him. And if that kind of stuff continues, then indeed he'll be in the league as a bona fide player sooner than later. One game does that make that determination. You need to do more than that. But I wanted to make sure I emphasize that point. And the reason why I wanted to make sure I emphasize that point, Molly, is because when I was approached by Pops, okay, at courtside and all of this other stuff, I will contend till the cows come. Yeah, tell me about it. I will contend till the cows come home. I was never disrespecting Bronny James. I was the one that didn't watch him in high school because I didn't want to judge him like I would have had to had I gone to his game. I didn't go to his college games at USC because he had the heart condition. I waited and waited and waited until he got to the pro level because I wanted to give the kid a chance, because obviously being LeBron James' son puts him in a very precarious position. So this notion that I was disrespecting his son, it's a lie. It is false. We have numerous tapes that show I did not do that. But I did believe that he belonged in the G League to get himself honed for the NBA level. What may have been wrong about that is that evidently being around J.J. Redick and that staff and being around Pops and the rest of the Los Angeles Lakers, combined with the G League going back and forth, may be doing wonders for him sooner than we anticipated. Because I liked what I saw last night. And I'm going to keep the same energy. When he plays well, we're going to give him props. When he doesn't play well, we're going to say so. That's what happens with covering the league. Maybe his pops didn't tell him that, but I'm going to tell him that.
So this is Stephen A. Smith, after all the stuff he's been talking about, turning back on his pride and basically bowing down to LeBron James and his family again, doing all this seal clapping, finally, quote unquote, doing his job, and basically saying like I was wrong. Or I may have been wrong. Listen, man, he even admitted it's only been one game. That was a lot of talking for an unnecessary amount of talking. Just regurgitating the same things over and over and over and over and over again. But at the end of the day, that was Bronny's best game. So you got to give him credit for that. However, if you provide context, and I'll do another video about this at some point. I mean, somebody said that the Lakers were bound to lose that game from tip-off because they sat like, 5 people? I think all their starters sat, except maybe Reeves. Did Reeves play? I don't remember. I didn't really watch the game, to be honest with you. The moment I heard that all the starters was out, I was like, well, the Bucks should win. And they did. And they killed them. So ultimately, the Lakers got trounced the way they were supposed to. Bronny had a good individual game, but that depends on what you mean by good. If dudes aren't really playing and they knew the game is already over and he gets 17 points, I mean, it's nice, but it's not meaningful. I'd like to see Bronny in a meaningful game. I'm not saying that this is not a good stepping stone for him, but this is not a meaningful game. It was not a game that the Lakers ever had a chance of winning. And also, the stat nobody's going to tell you about is I believe he was like a minus 37 on the floor. And that's not just on him. Again, they were expected to lose. This was a scheduled loss that Bronny, I guess, made the most of, which you got to take advantage of your opportunities, right? So that's fine. But then to do all this extra dancing and prancing, it's unnecessary, man. It's unnecessary. It's just unnecessary. So that's the final snippet of this entire series that we've done here. And let's just put it all the pieces together, right? So in episode 1, we started off and we saw what happened. And then we listened to what his response was on ESPN the first time. And he says, as a father. So he's talking about as a father, LeBron James, as a father, was the person that approached him. And he was comfortable with saying that. And then he thought about it some more, went on his own podcast, pretty much held the same reasoning, but then also was just trying to plead his case like, listen, I didn't say nothing about Bronny. I don't understand where this came from, where people are saying, or specifically LeBron is saying that I was talking about Bronny. And we discussed that in part 2, right? Part 3, mixed with part 4, we discussed what happened when he went on Gil's Arena. And when he went on Gil's Arena, he basically was like, that was weak. And I never said nothing about Bronny. He tried to postulate himself a little bit tougher, have a little bit more of an attitude, because he was with some people that's not chumps. And my favorite part of the whole Gil's Arena thing was where basically Kenyon Martin said, listen, and this is my personal favorite part, where Kenyon Martin was like, listen, God didn't put me in these situations because he knew what I was going to do. He knew things were going to get out of control. Furniture was going to be moving. Somebody was going out in handcuffs. And again, I'm not promoting violence. I'm not promoting cussing people out and all that stuff. That's not the best behavior, especially when you're in the limelight and everybody can see it. But Kenyon Martin was like a breath of fresh air to me, because that's how you're supposed to handle these situations. Somewhat. Again, I'm not promoting that stuff, but at least use your brain to think of another way to not go out like no chump. At a certain point, who cares? You, Stephen A. Smith, you made $100 million. We don't understand why you're still bound down to this man. And so Stephen A. Smith, he tried to reiterate, like, look, I didn't want to cause a scene. I didn't want to do this and that. Whatever, man. But you're still kissing LeBron James's butt, talking about the whole time, the whole series, in every episode that we've done, he still found some way to postulate his lips onto LeBron James' buttocks. No diddy. Just say it with your chest, man. He's trying to be in a club that he's never going to be in. Right? He's never going to be in. That's just never going to happen. Then we go to episode 6 and 7, and I believe, if my mind suits me correctly, 6 and 7 is where we basically listen to what Melo and Wade had to say. We listened to what Melo and Wade had to say, and Melo and Wade helped us to see something slightly different. And I believe we also had heard from Stephen A. Smith that and actually Stephen A. Smith had basically kind of said like, oh, I saw when LeBron James and Richard Jefferson were talking, and he said, when you say as a father, and Stephen A. Smith is like, hold on a second. I didn't say nothing about Bronny. And it wasn't about Bronny. It was about you. It was about my relationship with you. And so Wade and Melo, Wade started off kind of saying like, oh, Wade started off kind of saying like, oh, well, I understand as a father, I would have jumped on him, blah, 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 even though I'm friends with Stephen A. Wade, I don't buy it, bro. You can say what you want about Wade's personal life, but I've never seen him not show class in pretty much everything that he does. You can say what you want about other things when it comes to Dwayne Wade, and I know we all got a lot of opinions, a lot of ideas. But if you just look at the man for his NBA career and how he always handled himself, he always handled himself with class. So for him to sit up here and say, I would have did the same thing, I call cap. You're trying to protect LeBron James because he's your friend. But again, sometimes you hurt your friends when you make too many excuses for them. One or two excuses, I understand. That's your boy. But when you start talking about what you would have did, even though you wouldn't have did that because that's not how you roll, then, what are we doing? We're not helping. We're hurting at that point, sir. And Melo brought it in and said, listen, it's personal. It's deeper than rap. And that's what I said, too. This is some Drake and Kendrick Lamar type stuff. This is some A minor shizzle right here. And that's what it turned out to be. Because Melo's like, yeah, it's deeper than rap. He just don't like Stephen A. Smith. They have a beef. They not friends. I never knew that. I learned a lot when I listened to that because I never knew they weren't friends. The way Stephen A. Smith talks, I could have sworn he was almost a Clutch employee, like the rest of these people. But apparently, he's balancing himself to be just on the outside of power. He's just on the outside of the power. Because I've never liked his takes on why other people are not closer to Michael Jordan and just LeBron is. I've never been comfortable with them. They're his own opinions, but when I listen to people give their opinions of their top 5, their top 10, and why this player is better than that player, I listen to what they're saying, the facts that they're trying to use or opinions they're trying to use. And when it doesn't line up or add up across the board, when you can't say the same thing for everybody, it seems like you're, doing stupid stuff. I've even heard him mention why he doesn't have Kobe Bryant over Magic Johnson. And it was trash. I hated the argument because he was like, oh, he has Shaq. Magic had Kareem. Kareem, technically all time, is better than Shaq. But Magic had him, but we don't fault Magic? That don't make sense. So there's a lot of trickery and a lot of, hypocritical things being said in between there. But he still finds a way to put LeBron James second at all cost. And that's why I always thought like, oh, he's gotta be close to Clutch, but he's not. Which is a revelation to me and probably most of you. So he's not close to Clutch. And apparently they don't have a good relationship. And we learned that in episode 6 and 7. In episode 8 and 9, we listened to Stephen A. Smith's final thoughts, really, on the whole situation. And he said it's not about that. He said LeBron James is mad at him because he has him second. And he can't stand him because of that reason. Because he will not do the final act of obedience and pour honey on himself like Shannon Sharpe. And he specifically mentioned Shannon Sharpe's name. And again, Unc, Shannon Sharpe, I just want to point out, I'm not saying this to bash you. You said in one of your videos that pour honey on you for LeBron James. Now, I took it a little bit out of context. I admit that. Y'all will have to go back and listen to what he said. But LeBron James and Honey and himself were mentioned in the same podcast in unison. So you take that how you want to take it. So Unc, again, not being disrespectful. But, he that's really what it comes down to. He wouldn't do that final act of obedience. And then he kind of closes it out by saying LeBron James, even though we try to act like it doesn't bother him, it seems like it bothers him. And it does. So if you listen to some of these LeBron James fans, and I won't even say fans, some of them are zealots. Maybe there's some good LeBron James fans out there. I think I know one or two. But a lot of them are zealots. Everything is LeBron James all the time. And a lot of them like to say, well, you think LeBron cares about you and your opinion? You think LeBron cares about you and your opinion? Well, apparently he does. Which I always thought he did. He got off social media because he was tired of people probably telling him how he ain't better than Jordan. And now a lot of people on social media, whether you like it or not, tell him you ain't better than Kobe Bryant. So there's that. And the whole time with Stephen A. Smith, throughout all the videos that we've said, he's still being a follower. He still wants to be in the in club with LeBron James and Clutch Sports. Because the whole time he's just making apologies. He's crying over it. He's spitting facts, though. I got to give it to him. I find most of what Stephen A. Smith says, excuse me, to be fraudulent or half fraudulent. He's the type of person, like a politician, that gives you some truths, but also puts in some lies. He sprinkles it all in so that you sometimes, if you really don't pay attention, you can't tell which part is a lie, because a lot of it does sound true, but he mixes it in. And so the whole time, you know, he's also the whole time as we're listening to this talking about I did not really do my job. And he didn't. He stayed away from Bronny James and the James family in a way that he's never shown restraint and discipline to do for other people. He murdered Kwame Brown. Murdered him. When at Rasha Nesterovich, I remember him, Russ Westbrook. There's a lot of people that he's just straight up called bums who are in the NBA, who are putting up better numbers than Bronny, but they were not attached to LeBron James and the power, right? They weren't attached to the power and the control that LeBron James has, to that machine of him and Clutch. So Stephen A. Smith tries to play a role. But where did that get you, Stephen A. Smith? What awards did you win? It didn't get you nothing. It just got you embarrassed on national TV. To where you got to talk about how embarrassed you were. To where you got to be a tough guy now when you go on Gil's Arena. But you're still kissing LeBron James's butt. And everybody knows it. So yeah, you're right about some things. And how you ain't afraid of nobody. But that's a lie. Because you are afraid of him. You're not afraid of him to an extent, maybe. But there's still a fear there. Because you won't go all the way over and just say every single thing that you feel. And you're still kissing his butt to keep him in second place. For reasons I don't understand. Because he already has shown he don't care about you. He don't give a dang about you. But you still want to sit there and try to support him. And you know how I know you're supporting him? Because if Bronny James was Bronny Brown, Kwame Brown's son, you would have been destroyed him. The boy wouldn't want to leave the house. He'd be so depressed. If that was Russ's son, you would try to remind him as much as possible how garbage his dad is and how he need to be a better shooter, but probably not learn from his dad because his dad can't shoot. Excuse me. So, and then there's this final thing here where you're like, oh, Bronny, you know, maybe I was wrong. Even though it's just one game, maybe I was wrong. You just said it was one game. So then how are you wrong, sir? I always believed in Bronny from the first time I saw him play. Cap, you just sat up here and told us how all of this was manipulation and it seemed shady, and the Lakers and the league all thought it seemed shady. But once it happened with the Griffies, everybody was clapping, so I clapped. You went along to get along. You knew the whole time that some of the stuff people like me were saying about how this is rigged and it's nonsense. You knew that, but you clapped anyway like a seal. And you still didn't get anything out of it because he still tried to embarrass you. Because people that have big egos and never get corrected and are low-key kind of narcissistic, they don't bow to anybody. They don't owe anybody any favors. They don't care about anybody more than they care about themselves. And you just learned that, Stephen A. Smith. I wouldn't even say the hard way. You kind of deserved it. It's karma for all the stuff you've been doing to everybody else. And you will probably continue to do to everybody else. Bronny had an okay game for him. It was a step for him. But in the long run, in the big picture of things, this is nothing. His average is still like 2 points a game in the NBA. Don't tell me about the G League because I don't care. I don't watch the G League, and most of y'all don't either. So cut the crap. Cut it out. I stayed up my whole life. I'm on the East Coast. I stayed up my whole life watching Laker games at 1 o'clock in the morning just to get a glimpse of Kobe's greatness, of Shaq's greatness, of the Laker greatness. Do you think I want to stay up for a G League game to watch Bronny James? You got to be out your rabbit mind. You mean to tell me y'all are doing that just because you can support LeBron James? Cut it out, man. Just all of it. Just cut it all out. I'm not going to deal with this type of stuff. So my final thoughts overall, Stephen A. Smith made a lot of valid points, and he did some decent investigative journalism. Like, he really kind of got to what the real problem was. He really did his homework. I give him credit for that. To the point where I almost even felt bad for Stephen A. Smith. And I don't really feel bad for him ever because I do believe he's a fraud. I think he's a snake. And that's not necessarily be disrespectful to him. That's just what I believe. I see what he does to other people. I see how he treats people that don't have no power. If you have power, Stephen A. will treat you good. If you don't, you're nothing to him. And I personally don't respect that. I don't respect that. I don't like that. I was taught to treat everybody the same way. As much as possible. We're imperfect human beings. Sometimes we don't do that. Sometimes we get enamored by stars and other people like that. But they're human beings too. And it's us as the people on YouTube or the people that talk about them with our families that can hold them accountable. They're not gods. They're not deities. They're normal human beings with some money. Whoop-de-doo. If they were your normal friend right next to you, would you still respect them? Would you still call them a hero for the things that they do and say? Would you still believe in them? And if the answer is no, don't let money be the reason why you do. Don't let fame and power be the reason why you do. Because then what are you at that point? You're an idol worshiper. I refuse to be an idol worshiper. The people that I respect, and I have a lot, for example, I have a lot of respect for Denzel Washington. I don't agree with everything Denzel does. Recently, he's done a few things that make me scratch my head. But the things I do respect Denzel Washington for, I'm 100% certain that those qualities are good. I used to have a lot of respect for Will Smith. A lot more than I do now. I still think there's a good man there. But I lost a little bit because of that incident with Chris Rock. It hurt my soul to watch that. But you know what? Will Smith and anybody else is not my God. They're not my idol. I only have one God that I answer to. So if I was talking to Will Smith, respectfully, I would say, man, that wasn't your best move. But God forgives. So hopefully you're doing whatever you need to do to recover from that. Still like you, man. Still wish you the best. But people, some of you can't say that to the people that you want to put on this high pedestal. And that's where that's a problem. Stephen A. Smith is wrong because how he treated everybody else, how he did everybody else dirty, and decided not to do his job for one specific family that had money, power, and clout. And so he kind of got what he deserved. As far as LeBron James, at some point, hopefully this stuff will catch up to him. And again, if you're his fan, you may hate that I'm saying that. But it's starting to catch up to it. It's starting to catch up with him. That's why he had to leave social media. Recently, he still doesn't say as much stuff as he used to say. He switched up a little bit. If you pay attention, he's changed a little bit because he had to. It was getting hot in the kitchen. Especially with him manipulating the draft and getting his son in. People have been on his behind more than usual. And even he and his zealots, not his regular fans, again, there's some regular fans, but his zealots can't even hold off the army that's coming for him. So he had to leave social media. This is another example of LeBron James doing too much because he probably has too much power, and most of the people around him won't check him. If it's about you and Stephen A. Smith, leave Bronny out of it. What does Bronny have to do with this? And this is why I feel bad for Bronny. Using your son to get at a guy you don't like because he thinks Michael Jordan is better than you is disgusting. It's ridiculous. If LeBron James was my friend, I would be disgusted. And I would tell him, bruh, you messed up. Hopefully you learn from this. Does that make LeBron a bad father? Absolutely not. I know money ain't everything, and I just said that to you guys, but he has made his son a lot of money already. He's given his son a future. That is good. Money is not evil. People make money evil. They do evil things for money. That's the problem. I don't think LeBron James was doing this for money. But he is doing this because he wants to be the GOAT. And that in itself is not right. I don't care what anybody says. Using your son to get at somebody else, an enemy, that kisses your butt all the time, by the way, and stop doing his job to help you, is disgusting. But when it comes to LeBron James, when does he not do what he wants to do? When does he not use people for the way he wants to use them? So like I said, some of his armor, some of his kingship some of his crown is being broken in the last few years. I've seen some chinks in that untouchable once armor. But he's still getting away with murder. And I didn't add it yet here, and I may add some small other little things to this series of other people talking. But for example, Boogie Cousins said it. Boogie posted something that was like, hey, when I approached somebody that was talking about my family, saying much worse things, y'all find me. And that's all he said. But if you can know how to use context, talking too fast. If you know how to use context clues like I do, what you'll realize is he was saying, why are the rules different for this man? Amen, Boogie. Why are they different for LeBron James? Why have the rules always been different for LeBron James? Am I saying he's not talented? No. Am I saying he's not one of the best players you've ever seen? Absolutely not. But from what I've seen and observed from day one, the rules have been different for LeBron James. So while he may have been under a lot of pressure, and some say the most pressure ever, I go back and forth with whether I agree with that or not. But he's definitely one of the people under the most pressure. Or he was at one point. Definitely. But he's also been given a lot more than a lot of other people. And this is just another example of the league not cracking down on him when they should have for this incident. Like they did Boogie Cousins. Just like they did when he first came into the league. So LeBron James, his learning curve is always going to be slow. Because everybody around him kisses his butt. And even the people that he's enemies with, like Stephen A. Smith, are still trying to kiss his butt. And like I said an episode or two ago, when you talk about power, the United States with Trump, Russia with Putin. These are two men that respect each other, that know that it's not a game, that are serious when they talk to each other. They both stay in their lanes. Stephen A. Smith is not on the level of United States with Trump or Russia with Putin. LeBron James is United States or Russia. And Stephen A. Smith is Cambodia. LeBron don't care about you, Stephen A. Smith. The more you kiss his butt, the more he's just going to continue to bully you. You let him win, at least for now. Maybe one day you'll really step up, man up, and put LeBron in his place permanently. But until you do that, you will always get bullied by the bully. And I said it before and I'll say it again. Nobody bullies me. You're going to have to kill me. I'm dead serious when I say that. You will have to kill me if you want to bully me. But unfortunately, money, power, and clout to people like Stephen A. Smith is worth them getting bullied. Thank you very much for listening to this whole series. If you made it this far, this has been a great journey. I loved every minute of this, although I was a little tired at times, and it does seem like I'm potentially beating a dead horse by talking about the same thing for so long. But you really got to break all this stuff down. It's deeper than rap. It's on some A minor shizzle. So I appreciate you all. Much love. Please like, share, and subscribe, and keep tuning in for more great content. I think it's great. Hopefully you think it's great. Again, please like, share, and subscribe. Much love.
Can tell that somehow you never get over leaving me. And when you feel like